The final frame of Heartland Season 19 does not end with a goodbye. It ends with a question. Nathan is on one knee. A ring is in his hand. And Amy Fleming, the woman who has carried more grief than any single person should ever have to carry, is standing there with tears in her eyes and an entire future hanging in the balance. Right now, every Heartland fan on the planet thinks they know what is coming in Season 20, Episode 1. But here is the truth that nobody is talking about. The proposal is not even the most important thing in this story. There is a detail hidden inside Nathan's plan, a detail that has been sitting quietly in the background for 2 full seasons. And when it finally hits, it is going to change absolutely everything. Heartland has survived things that would have destroyed most shows. It survived the death of Ty. It survived Amy's grief. It survived season after season of storms that tried to tear the Fleming family apart at the roots. And every single time, the show found a way to hold itself together. Because at its core, Heartland has always been about one thing: what we are willing to sacrifice for the people we love. Now, standing at the edge of Season 20, the show is preparing to ask that question louder than it ever has before. Amy Fleming is not just being asked to accept a proposal. She is being asked to decide who she is now, what kind of future she wants, and whether she is brave enough to truly leave the past behind. Season 20. Episode 1 is not a season premiere. It is a turning point. And once you understand what is actually at stake, you will never look at this story the same way again. To truly understand the weight of what is about to happen in Season 20. Episode 1, you have to go all the way back to the beginning. Not just the beginning of Season 19, but the beginning of everything that made Amy Fleming who she is. When Ty died, the show did not let us skip over the grief. It did not rush us past the pain. It sat down inside that loss with Amy, and it stayed there, for season after season, letting us feel the full, suffocating reality of what it means to lose your person. Amy did not just lose a husband. She lost her best friend. She lost the man who knew every corner of her heart before she even understood it herself. She lost the partner who had been standing beside her since she was a teenager, with big dreams and an even bigger stubborn streak. And the writers made a deliberate, courageous choice to honor all of that, to refuse to rush Amy into anything new, to let her sit inside that empty space until the grief started to change shape, slowly, painfully, into something she could actually carry. Then Nathan showed up, and the Heartland fandom split almost immediately. On one side were the viewers who saw him as an intruder, someone who dared to walk into a space that would forever belong to Ty, who felt too comfortable too quickly, who seemed to forget that some absences are meant to stay absences. On the other side were the viewers who saw him for exactly what he was, a patient, steady, honest man who never once tried to force his way into Amy's heart. He simply showed up, again and again and again, without drama, without grand declarations, without putting pressure on Amy to feel something before she was ready to feel it. He just existed in her orbit, consistently and quietly, and waited for her to decide what she wanted to do with that. What made Nathan's storyline one of the most carefully written arcs in recent Heartland history was not the big moments. It was the small ones. It was the way he handled Lindy. It was the patience he showed with a little girl who had every reason in the world to keep him at arm's length. A little girl who saw him, at first, as the man who was trying to take her daddy's place, who made her mama look at someone besides the ghost she had been quietly grieving beside for years. Lindy's coolness toward Nathan at the start of season 19 was not irrational. It was completely understandable. It was the natural response of a child who loved her father and was not ready to see that love shared with anyone new. And the show honored that instinct rather than dismissing it. But here is what is remarkable. By the time the season 19 finale arrived, Lindy was asking Nathan to read her bedtime stories. She was chasing his dog around the yard. She was gravitating toward him with a trust and an ease that she had not shown with any adult outside her immediate family. That shift did not happen because the writers decided to skip over the hard part. It happened because Nathan earned it, one patient interaction at a time, one consistent, gentle presence at a time, until Lindy's walls came down, not because she was forced to lower them, but because she simply forgot they were supposed to be there. But Nathan's greatest test in season 19 did not come from Lindy. It came from his own blood. When the truth about Gracie's behavior emerged, when Nathan found himself standing at the intersection of family loyalty and personal integrity, he did not flinch. He could have looked the other way. He could have made excuses, minimized the damage, protected his sister at Amy's expense. He did not. He told the truth, even knowing the truth could cost him the relationship he had spent 2 seasons carefully building. He kept Gracie away from the ranch. He chose Amy. Not because it was easy, but because it was right. And that single choice, more than any romantic scene, more than any candlelit dinner or emotional conversation, told us everything we needed to know about who Nathan is at his core. So when the season 19 finale ends with Nathan on one knee, holding a ring, the weight of that moment is not just romantic. It is 2 seasons of storytelling, paying off in a single breath. It is the culmination of patience and honesty and quiet courage. And it leaves every Heartland fan walking into season 20 with a question that goes much deeper than, will she say yes? The real question, the one the show has been building toward all along, is what comes after the yes. Because based on everything that has been carefully laid out across 2 full seasons, the answer to that question is more complicated, more beautiful, and more heartbreaking than almost anyone is currently prepared for. Season 20, Episode 1 is expected to open right where the finale left off, in the middle of that suspended moment, with Amy standing across from Nathan and the entire weight of her history pressing down on both of them. And if the writers stay true to the emotional logic they have been following from the beginning, Amy's answer will come quickly. But the yes does not close anything. The yes swings open a door into a room full of questions that Amy has been quietly avoiding for 2 full seasons. Questions about her identity, about her future, and about whether she is truly ready to let go of the past in the deepest, most irreversible way possible. And standing right at the center of those questions is a possibility that nobody in the Heartland fandom is fully prepared to talk about yet. That saying yes to Nathan might also mean saying goodbye to Heartland Ranch. Here is the detail that most viewers are rushing past, and I need you to slow down and really sit with this for a moment. Because on the surface, Nathan's proposal looks like exactly what it is: a romantic gesture, a beautiful moment, the emotional payoff of a slow-burn love story. But buried inside that proposal is a second offer, a second question. And that second question is the one that is going to drive the entire engine of season 20 in ways that most fans are not fully seeing yet. Nathan's friend already suggested that he purchase a ranch on Salt Spring Island. That detail was not background noise. In television writing, at this level of storytelling craft, nothing placed inside a season finale is background noise. When a specific location is introduced in dialogue, a real, tangible alternative to everything a character currently has, it is not scenery. It is setup. It is the writers planting a seed in plain sight, trusting that the attentive viewer will recognize it for what it is, a foreshadowing of a decision that is about to become the most consequential one in the show's recent history. Salt Spring Island is not a different house. It is not a different neighborhood on the same stretch of familiar ground. It is a completely different world. It represents a clean break, a fresh beginning built on new land, new memories, and a new version of Amy Fleming that has not been defined by grief. And here is where the hidden detail becomes genuinely fascinating. Because think about what it would mean for Amy to say yes to Nathan and yes to Salt Spring Island at the same time. Think about what she would be walking away from. Heartland Ranch is not a property. It is not real estate. It is the ground where Amy and Ty fell in love as teenagers. It is the land where Lindy took her first steps. It is the place where Jack built a legacy that has stretched across the better part of a century. Every fence post, every paddock, every view from every window on that property is saturated with memory and meaning and love that does not expire. And this is where the hidden detail becomes something even more important than a plot point. Because the fact that Nathan chose to propose at Heartland Ranch, on the very ground where Amy's love story with Ty lived and breathed and eventually ended, is not a coincidence. The writers are drawing a deliberate, conscious line between Amy's past and her future. They are asking her, in the most intimate possible setting, whether she is ready to step across that line. Whether it is possible to truly begin again while still standing inside the place that holds everything she has already been. And that question, which begins to unfold in Season 20, Episode 1, gives the entire premiere a depth and a sadness that runs quietly underneath every single scene. Now here is the layer that most viewers are missing entirely, and it connects directly to Lindy. Lindy's emotional journey across Season 19 has been a mirror of Amy's. Smaller, quieter, but running on exactly the same emotional track. As Amy slowly, carefully opened herself to Nathan, Lindy was doing the same thing in her own way, at her own pace, through dog walks and bedtime stories and small moments of trust that accumulated over months. The parallel is not accidental. The writers built it deliberately, and the significance of that parallel explodes in Season 20, Episode 1, because when Amy makes her decision, yes or no, stay or go, Heartland Ranch or Salt Spring Island, she is not making it for herself alone. She is making it for a little girl who has been through exactly as much loss as her mother, if not more. A little girl who has just started to feel safe again. A little girl for whom another upheaval, another move, another adjustment, another goodbye could be either the beginning of something wonderful or the thing that temporarily breaks her open all over again. The writers have been laying this groundwork for 2 full seasons. Every quiet scene between Nathan and Lindy, every small exchange between Amy and Jack about the future of the ranch, every mention of Salt Spring Island was a deliberate brick in the foundation of what is now the most emotionally loaded storyline Heartland has built in years. Go back and re-watch the earliest episodes of Season 19 with this knowledge, and you will see the breadcrumbs they were leaving from the very first episode. The Salt Spring Island detail is not a throwaway line. It is the foreshadowing of a goodbye that Season 20 is going to make you feel in your bones. And it all begins in Episode 1, in the space between Nathan's question and Amy's answer. Everything from this point forward is speculation based on the patterns and details visible in the show. These are possibilities and theories, not confirmed facts. But when you line them all up together, they tell a story about Season 20 that is far richer and far more emotionally complex than the surface reading suggests. The first major theory, and the one that carries the most narrative weight, is this. Nathan's proposal and his Salt Spring Island plan are not two separate conversations. They are one conversation. When Nathan gets down on one knee in that finale moment, it is entirely possible, based on the setup that has been carefully constructed over the preceding season, that he is not just asking Amy to marry him. He is asking her to marry him and to come with him, to start over, to build something new on new land. That would make the proposal a two-part question wrapped in one emotional moment, and it would immediately transform the Season 20 premiere into something with a level of stakes that viewers have not felt since the earliest devastating episodes following Ty's death. If this theory is correct, then Amy's yes is not a simple answer. It is a decision that splits her entire world in two, because saying yes to Nathan and Salt Spring Island means saying goodbye to Heartland Ranch, and that goodbye, if it comes, will carry more weight than almost any single moment in the show's entire run. This brings us to a broader theory about what Season 20 actually is at its core, beneath the wedding preparations and the new beginnings. This could mean that Season 20 is not primarily a celebration. It is possible that what the writers have actually built is a season about grief, not grief over a person this time, but grief over a place, grief over an identity, grief over a chapter of life that once felt permanent, that once felt like it would simply go on forever, until the day it quietly didn't. There is a second theory worth taking seriously, and this one is going to raise some eyebrows. Based on the emotional trajectory of Amy and Nathan's relationship, and the narrative logic of where their story is heading, it is possible, genuinely possible, that Season 20 will include a pregnancy reveal. This is not as far-fetched as it might initially sound. Amy and Nathan have been one of the most carefully paced couples the show has ever written. Their relationship has been built on trust, patience, and a level of emotional maturity that both characters had to grow into over 2 full seasons. A pregnancy would not arrive out of nowhere. It would come as the natural next chapter of a story that has been moving, slowly and deliberately, in exactly this direction. And from a pure storytelling standpoint, a pregnancy arc running alongside a wedding, a relocation, and every other major life transition in Season 20 would create the kind of layered, overlapping emotional complexity that makes great serialized television. Think about what a pregnancy announcement would mean for the world around Amy. For Jack, already grappling with the possibility of his granddaughter moving away, it would be bittersweet in the most profound way. For Lou, who has always been the practical anchor of the family, it would trigger an entirely new set of responsibilities and emotions. And for Lindy, who has been gradually trusting Nathan and learning to love him in her own quiet way, news of a sibling on the way would be a development that could either pull her deeper into this new family or temporarily push her back into the protective distance she started the season with. Both possibilities are emotionally rich, both are dramatically interesting, and both would generate the kind of watch time holding tension that carries an entire season. The third theory concerns the Katie-Dex-River triangle, and this one is based on a very deliberate storytelling choice the writers made in the Season 19 finale. They gave this storyline a sweet, unresolved ending rather than a clean one. That is not an accident. When writers choose to leave a story open in a season finale, it is because they are actively planning to pick it back up. The theory is that Season 20, Episode 1 brings this triangle to a boiling point almost immediately, possibly through Katie finally voicing the feelings she has been holding back, and that the aftermath of that confession will ripple through the entire season in ways that test the boundaries of what these three characters believe friendship can and cannot survive. If Dex feels the same way about Katie that Katie feels about him, it could mean that River, who the show has been careful to portray as a genuinely good and caring person, gets hurt by people she trusts completely. And that kind of betrayal, even when it is unintentional, even when everyone involved is acting from a place of real emotion, is the stuff that makes audiences hold their breath from one episode to the next. Take everything that has been building, the proposal, the hidden Salt Spring Island plan, the theories about grief and goodbyes and new beginnings, and push it forward into the shape of a full season. Because if the predictions laid out here are anywhere close to accurate, Season 20 is going to be structured in a way that most Heartland fans are not fully expecting. On the surface, it will look like a season of celebrations, a wedding, a new home, a new chapter. But running underneath every one of those bright moments is going to be a current of loss that the show is going to ask its audience to feel fully and honestly. And that combination, joy and grief braided together so tightly you cannot separate them, is when Heartland has always been at its absolute best. The wedding preparations alone are going to generate an enormous amount of material. Consider what it means for Lou to help plan a wedding that might also be a farewell. Lou has spent years holding this family together through sheer force of will and organizational ability. She is the one who always knows what needs to be done and makes sure it gets done. But planning her sister's wedding while privately processing the knowledge that her sister might be moving thousands of miles away, that is a tension that lives inside every conversation, every fitting, every flower arrangement, every decision about what song plays when Amy walks down the aisle. Lou will not fall apart. That is not who she is. But the audience will see it in her eyes. They always do. For Jack, the emotional territory ahead is even more complex. Jack has been the beating heart of Heartland from its very first episode. He is the character who represents continuity, who represents the idea that some things, some places, some people are simply meant to endure. Watching Jack face the very real possibility that his granddaughter is going to leave Heartland Ranch permanently is going to be one of the most quietly devastating storylines the show has produced in years. It will not be loud. Jack does not do loud grief. It will come through in the way he watches Amy across the dinner table, in the extra seconds he holds a hug, in the way he stands at the fence line in the early morning and looks out across the land that has defined his entire life, knowing that the version of that life he has always imagined is about to change in ways he cannot control. The Jack and Dex storyline, which has been one of the more underappreciated threads of recent seasons, is also heading somewhere significant in Season 20. Jack training Dex for the rodeo is a passing of the torch moment dressed up as a hobby subplot. It is the show asking whether Jack can do the thing he has never truly done. Step back. Hand the reins to the next generation. Trust that what he has built will continue without him at the center of it. And this season is going to force that question in a way that feels earned rather than manufactured, because the context surrounding it, Amy leaving, the ranch facing an uncertain future, gives Jack's retirement arc a weight and a resonance that it would not have in any other season. As for the Katie-Dex-River triangle, brace yourself, because Season 20 is almost certainly going to light this particular fuse in the earliest episodes. The beauty of this storyline, the thing that makes it genuinely compelling rather than just dramatic, is that the writers have made only 3 of these characters deeply sympathetic. There is no clear villain. There is no easy answer. Katie's feelings are real. Dex's feelings, whatever they turn out to be, will be real. And River's friendship with both of them is as real as anything in the show. Which means that when this triangle finally comes to a head, there is no version of events where nobody gets hurt. Somebody is going to carry the weight of this, and the audience, who has grown to care about all 3 of them in equal measure, is going to feel the unfairness of that in a way that makes for some of the most emotionally gripping viewing of the entire season. There is one more thing worth naming as we look toward the rest of Season 20, and it is the question that hangs over the entire season like weather. Is this the final chapter? Based on the trajectory of the storytelling, the wedding, the move, the passing of torches, the quiet goodbyes being embedded in what look like beginnings, it is possible that Season 20 is designed to function as a finale. Not a rushed one, not an abrupt one, but a careful, loving, intentional one that gives every character the ending their story has been earning all along. And if that is what Season 20 truly is, then every single episode is going to feel like both a gift and a goodbye, which is exactly the kind of television that Heartland has always been brave enough to make. Season 20 of Heartland is not just another season of a beloved show. Based on everything that has been built, everything that has been hinted at, and everything that is now hanging in the balance, it is shaping up to be the final act of the longest and most emotionally complex love story this show has ever told. Not just the love story between Amy and Nathan, but the love story between Amy Fleming and the land that made her, between a family and the home they built together, between a show and the audience that has kept it alive for 2 extraordinary decades. So here is what I need to know from you right now. Do you think Amy should say yes and leave Heartland Ranch behind? Do you think Season 20 deserves to be the final chapter? And what is the one thing, the single scene, the single conversation, the single moment that you absolutely need to see in Season 20, Episode 1? Drop it in the comments because this conversation is just getting started, and I read every single one.